Hello, viewers and listeners. This is Big Law, and this is Locked On Virginia. This is our year-end review for the basketball team in Charlottesville, and I got my guy Casey Pazzalia with me today from the Virginia Gameday broadcast.
You are Locked On Virginia, your daily podcast on the Virginia Cavaliers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey everyone, here we go. This is our year-end review for the University of Virginia basketball team. Of course, I got my partner in crime, Casey Pazzalia, in the building.
What is going on?
Hey, can you hear me, buddy?
Oh, loud and clear, baby.
All right, good. Yeah, we got some stuff to talk about today. As you guys can see, I got my guy Casey Pazzalia from the Virginia Gameday podcast in the building, and we are definitely gonna break down the year that was when we're talking about 2022 and the Cavaliers basketball year from last season to where we are today. So, how you doing, Casey? How's everything going, man?
Pretty good, man. Right in the thick of the holiday season here. We had Christmas. That was great. I was up in New York. Got some of that crazy snow that everyone's heard about. So it was good to have a little white Christmas there. And, now we're just ready to get into New Year's. It was a great year, 2022. And I'm hoping to have another good one in 2023. How about yourself?
Right. Everything's been great, man. Everything's been awesome. I mean, just getting ready to get this show started with you. But I can tell you, thank you for making Locked On Virginia your first listen of the day. And our title sponsor today is BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. So yeah, Casey, man, let's talk about it, man. Let's talk about this university basketball team, where we were, because we're going to break this up into 3 segments, everyone. We're going to have the NIT last year, where the team ended. Then we're going to have the recruiting period, what players came in, what players stayed, and then we're going to end the show by talking about, where we are today. So let's just go ahead and break down where we were at the end of last year. Last year was a trying year. It kind of felt like last year's team and the team before were very similar. Had trouble shooting, had trouble scoring. You give me your analysis. What did you see based off of the team early 2022, last year's team?
So just to start off with the timeline from last year, right in the end of the first half of the 2021-2022 season, it was rough, right? We had a loss to Navy, a JMU loss there. We got blown out by Houston. So that was at the end of 2021. And then when 2022 started, we kind of got our hopes back because they reeled off 2 wins in a row on the road at Syracuse, at Clemson. So when the year started, this year, 2022 started, we were feeling good because it was like, okay, maybe this year's not so bad. We just won 2 conference games on the road. But then throughout all ACC play earlier this year, it was up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. They win those 2 games against Syracuse and Clemson and then get destroyed by UNC. And then they beat Virginia Tech, but then they get blown out by Wake Forest at home. And then they beat Pittsburgh, then they get blown out by NC State. And I remember doing podcasts last year and just being like a roller coaster, up and down, up and down. Good one game, bad the next game. Good one game, bad the next game. And a lot of it is what you said, Remember, Armand was super streaky last year. He'd have a great game and go over 7. And then, we're still seeing some of that now. But
that is definitely a conversation that we're going to have a little bit later in the show. But my analysis of it is, just looking at where I think this team, some of their gains for this year have been already great, have been vast. They've had a lot of growth this year based off of last year.
Yeah.
I think there was times with the defense in early 2022 where they would have lapses in defense, bad lapses. And
Yeah.
really, it was like the pack line wasn't the pack line anymore. They were giving up a lot of easy buckets. And
Yeah.
you combine that with the bread and butter of UVA not being able to hit open outside shots. That really, was the formula that did us in. When your best outside shooter by the end of the year was Kihei, Clark, not knocking
Yeah.
Kihei, because Kihei is the heart and soul of the program, but Kihei
And it was only
should not.
34%.
You're right. That's right. That's right. And Kihei should not be your best outside shooter, but he was, from distance.
Yeah.
And Armand Franklin, who was billed to come in and be that shooter, that scorer they needed, based off of where he showed, coming from Indiana, it seemed like he would be the guy. But, I think it's just maybe he just fell short based off of where, maybe his comfortability wasn't there or something. But the team struggled from his outside shotting. But the one thing that did surprise me is Jaden Gardner coming in and being the people mover that he was. And his deadly mid-range game showed up, and he was the number one, number two and number three options. When we're talking about getting buckets down in the down low and in the mid-range consistently.
Yeah. And we're looking at last year. You can't talk about last year without having or looking at that really great moment that the team had was going into Durham and beating Duke at Cameron Indoor on a last-second three. After that happened, right? Then our tournament hopes started flipping because I was in the midst of a 4-game win streak, and then I remember, it was like, all right, maybe we are a tournament team. That was such a big win for their resume, the fan base, everything, and our hopes were a little dim then. But I thought to myself, and I was telling people on the podcast, like, even if we don't make the tournament, to kind of, hang our hats up, we were going to beat Duke at Duke. And, we came through and did it. And that was a great moment. And then when Duke came to play us, I remember JPJ was rocking. And that was another great moment. We lost by a couple points, but I was there, and it was one of the better experiences that I can remember because the place was so live.
Well, and I remember also sending Coach K home, sending him into retirement.
Yeah.
That was another big storyline, sending him into retirement, with his final loss, or in his final game against UVA with a loss. And that was something I know the fan base was really happy to experience and to see that game. What did they wind up being? Were they the record? Was it 19-13? No, it was 21-14. Now I'm losing my mind.
Yeah. So of course they fell just shy of the big dance, of course, but they did make it to the NIT. And Virginia is not necessarily a team. They have higher expectations than the NIT, but you got to give these guys credit for showing up and playing hard in the NIT. They beat Mississippi State. They faced a very good North Texas team on the road and went to overtime and eventually lost a close game at home against St. Bonaventure. But, kudos to the team last year for showing their grit, showing their heart. And I think some of that has probably helped out this year, because they don't want to be an NIT team. They don't want that to happen again. So I think some of that has rubbed off.
That's right. I think they wound up being 21-14 at the end of the year. But what did come out of that was what we see right now is that Reese Beekman has taken over the team. It was really given it has given Reese Beekman the room to grow, to show how great of a defender he can be, and also it solidified that he is the best player on the team, hands down, on both sides of the ball. So I think last year really has catapulted Reese, into where he is with us today. So that's the first segment of the year-end review University of Virginia basketball team of 2022. They lost in the NIT against St. Bonaventure's record of 21-14. And let's move on to the next section, which is off season.
Okay.
So we have the off season, and
Mm-hmm.
of course Tony Bennett and his crew, Coach Williford, and the coaching staff has done a great job of recruiting, one of the top recruiting classes in the University of Virginia's history, and one of the top ones in the country. They pull in four stars, which is kind of reminiscent of when they pulled in a trio of highly ranked players that wound up sticking together and wound up bringing home a national championship. And what did you feel about the four stars that were coming in at the time once they showed up on campus?
I mean, it gave everyone hope, right? It gave everyone hope that, all right, maybe the last few seasons haven't gone how they're supposed to, but hold on, Wahoo Nation. We're going to be back to prominence, and it's not going to take that long. Kudos to Tony and the staff for getting them in. We have a great program. We have a lot to offer, and it's a proven program. And they also did a great job of getting Ben Vanderplas out of the transfer portal. So that's another recruiting win that they had. Think of last year we were able to keep our core guys. The dudes that we lost to the transfer portal weren't exactly rotation players. They were more, end of the bench guys. We lost Malachi Poindexter to Illinois State. We lost Igor Milicic to Charlotte, and we lost Carson McCorkle to Wofford. But those guys were only getting 5-6 minutes a game. So, good recruiting of the first years, good recruiting in the transfer portal, and good job keeping the guys here out of the transfer portal, the big rotation guys.
Absolutely right. So you got to keep your starters, as you were saying. That's your point guard and heart and soul of the team, Kihei Clark. Then your best player overall, offensively and defensively, which is Reese Beekman. Then you kept your scorer, Amon Franklin. Then you got your all-ACC third-team big man, Jaden Gardner. And then you got your shot blocker defender, at center, which is Caden Shedrick. And so you kept your starting five, but you still kept some other players that got some time at the end of the bench as well, which Papi Cafaro almost ran, and had just as many big moments as Caden Shedrick had the last year as well. So you got him, Cafaro, Francisco Cafaro. He changed the pronunciation of his name, and you had
I heard that. I was at the game, and I was like, "What?"
Yeah, he changed it. The pronunciation, Cafaro, is how we're supposed to pronounce it now. And then, of course, our guy from across the world from New Zealand, you got a guy, Tane Murray, all-around wingman. So you have 5 starters, 7 total vets that are back, which I think really solidifies this team as a top 25 team, period. But what I think puts them over the top is the addition, as you said, of Bennett Vanderplas, a do-it-all big man from Ohio University, has strong family ties, personal ties with Coach Bennett as well. Father played with Tony Bennett when they were in college, and Dick Bennett, the father, of course, of Tony, coached Bennett Vanderplas Plus's father. So Bennett Vanderplas comes in with one of the more versatile skill sets that I've seen a big man have at the University of Virginia. And he's right off the bat, to me, a huge X factor for this team because he can play a lot of different positions. And then at his position, he can do a lot of different things. He can play inside. He can play outside. He can stretch the defense, pull, defenders away and let the smaller players, play the pick game, slash into the basket kind of a game, kind of a Princeton kind of an offense if you want to run some of that with him. He can do that. He's an excellent passer, probably the best passing big man I've seen under a Tony Bennett regime as well. And then you think about the 4 stars, the 4 stars that we were just talking about earlier. Leon Bond, a great 4-star coming in. Ryan Dunn, Isaac Trout, and Isaac McNeely. Now, out of the 4, 2 of them have been redshirted. Now, I want to hear your opinion of the 2 that have not been redshirted, which is our guy Ryan Dunn and Isaac McNeely. Give me your opinion of the 2 4-stars that have not been redshirted that are getting time.
Well, they've both had their moments this year, and they're trying to get Isaac a little bit more adept at handling the ball handling duties, which is important because when Kihei's off the floor and with Reese out, other teams know that they can get in the shorts of the guards because we don't have a lot of ball handlers. So Isaac being a guy who can step up and handle the ball, Tony's, throwing him to the wolves and making sure he can do that, and that's great. Ryan Dunn is a guy who's just all around, like in baseball, they say a five tool guy. Ryan Dunn's got a bunch of tools. He hasn't been a huge knockdown shooter this year, but he's an energy guy. He can defend. He gives us versatility. It's awesome. But just one thing I want to rewind a little bit. This offseason, we look great on paper, right? Look great on paper, but a guy like Kihei Clark improved his game so much in the offseason. You can see from this year how much he's improved. He's a much better player. I mean, some of these steals he's had in the backcourt are just insane. He's doing the work, tendencies, all that stuff. Armand Franklin he's been a little bit hot and cold, but this year's Armand is better than last year's Armand. And they went to Italy as a team. So these trips overseas are huge because you get a chance to be around the guys and gel as a unit. You have your families with you. That stuff is huge. Locker room camaraderie and all that stuff is no joke. That matters. And
it's underrated.
When you get a chance to go overseas. Yeah. They went overseas. They played all these games besides just the basketball stuff of knowing tendencies and knowing where other guys are going to be. You get closer as a team, and make no mistake about it, it's translated to some of the success they've had in the first part of this season. But yeah, you can't say enough about these dudes who are getting playing time. Isaac and Ryan Dunn, they're part of the rotation. They're not going anywhere. So yeah, hats off to them.
Yeah, I mean, my guy, Ryan Dunn, I've called him the glue of the team because of his size. At 6'8", 205, 210 pounds, he can guard pretty much anybody on the floor, whether it be a wing player or a big man down low. He's the same height as Bennett Vanderplas, which Bennett Vanderplas plays the center position when they go small. So when you have a player with Ryan Dunn's length, and his guarding prowess, he can guard these perimeter guys very well on the perimeter. I venture to say he's the second best outside defender, wing defender behind Reese Beekman. And I don't think it's close after that. I think that everybody else is kind of along the same level. Go ahead, Casey.
I think, we saw some mistakes he had against Albany recently. He's definitely got the skill set. He's a little bit raw in terms of systems. He's only playing 3 or 4 minutes. I feel like that's less ability and more like assignments, maybe. Definitely one of our top on ball defenders. But I'd love to see his minutes get a little bit more consistent. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And as he plays more, I'm sure that'll happen.
Absolutely. So we're going to continue on with these 4 freshmen. But before we do that, you're hanging out with some friends and putting back a few drinks. A few become too many as the evening comes to an end and the people start to head out. You think of calling for a ride. Nah, you live by. You can make it home, okay? It's not that big of a deal. What are the odds you get pulled over anyway? And even so, what's the worst that could happen? Your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you lose your job, you total your car, or you kill someone. Everybody knows about the risk of driving drunk. The results are tragic and often deadly. However, that still doesn't stop everyone from getting behind the wheel while under the influence. Under the influence. That's why police officers are out there right now looking for impaired drivers on our roads to save lives. If you think you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again. Play it safe and plan ahead. And get a ride. It only takes one mistake to change a life or someone else's forever. Drive sober or get pulled over. So yes, man. So as we were talking about those 4 stars and kind of where they are, the guys actually look great. The guys who are playing, and then of course the 2 red shirts. Still excited for those guys, Leon Bond and Isaac Trout. So that's the wrap up for the middle segment of this show, which is the recruiting part. Now let's get into the ending of the segments of this show, where we talk about where this team is now. Started out hot, and really showed what kind of team they could really be with the versatility and the prospects of being a typical Tony Bennett team where they can make open outside shots. What did you feel at the beginning of the year watching all these players on the court shooting outside shots and making them at the beginning of the year?
It felt like our problems were solved. It was like, oh man,
Right.
They ain't been able to shoot the last few years, but man, all that hype was for real. We're deep, we can shoot it. And listen, shooting it's all cyclical, right? It all comes out in the wash. We're not as bad as we've been these last few games shooting the ball, and we may not have been as great as we were earlier in the season, but we're gonna get the stroke going again. I'm confident in that. We got a lot of guys, and Isaac can shoot the lights out. Armand's gonna get hot. Ben, one game was 0 for 7, then the next game he scored all our points against Miami. So Kihei's been consistent. Reese has been consistent. We need to get Reese back, of course, but yeah, we're gonna be okay. It's great that we have so many options. Like last year, it's no knock to the guys from last year, but instead of having, like Malachi playing 10 minutes or 12 minutes and Cody playing 15, 20 minutes, having Ryan Dunn and Isaac McNeely and Ben Vanderplas playing those spot minutes and helping out has been huge for our depth, and it allows us to be a little bit more, give us different looks and be more versatile, and allowed Tony to do some different things.
Yeah, I think Ryan Dunn, I think that Bennett Vanderplas really gives this team ultimate flexibility in what you want to do. Because Reese Beacon was out, Tony Bennett the other day came out with Kihei Clark, Isaac McNeely, Armand Franklin, Jaden Gardner, and Bennett Vanderplas.
Yeah.
Okay? And those guys came out, with a lot of versatility. But when things got tight, he Coach Bennett put in Caden Cedric, put in Big Papi Cafaro, put in
Yeah.
Ryan Dunn, which I think Ryan Dunn kind of changed the energy because he really did a great job of keeping some of those wing players out of the painted area. And then, of course, I think also the energy of bringing in Papi Cafaro. Also, he's just bigger than everybody. He just comes
Mm-hmm.
in like a bull in the china closet and just starts moving bodies, rebounding, and playing that tough brand of basketball. Being that Jack Salt light
Yeah.
kind of a person that this team needs.
I was happy to see Poppy play, and I've
Mm-hmm.
I thought they could have used him in a few other games here and there. I think it was Houston where I thought they could have used him just to give a shot of energy. But so far this year, we're 9-2. If you told fans earlier in the season ahead of time that we'd be 9-2, everyone would take it because this schedule is no joke. I mean, look at it. Baylor, Illinois, Michigan, Houston,
Miami, Houston.
like tough games. And we made it through the gauntlet with just 2 losses and 2 losses by single digits. So one of them being a road game. A few things here and there. Reese healthy in this game. Some shots go down in this game. We could be undefeated, but we're not. And, losses help you in the long run. Just kind of you learn from them, you get better. It's better to get some losses now than when you're in the tournament. You know what I mean? So get some of the losses off your back now, and hopefully we can go on a run later. But ACC play is about to start. Georgia Tech's coming up next. I don't think Kihei Clark has lost to Georgia Tech in his time at UVA. It's on the road, but I think just like last year, we're going to start the new year off hot and, reel off 3 wins in a row at least. And then we have a big showdown with North Carolina.
And that's the big one, everybody. We cannot look too far ahead. We got to take care of business like we did beginning of the year. But we can only do that if Reese Beekman's health is back to normal. And let's talk about Reese. Of course, I deemed Reese the best player on the team offensively and defensively. And he's been going through, the hamstring injuries. And where do you feel Reese is? What percentage do you think he is going into this week or this weekend's game? And do you think he'll play tomorrow?
I don't know. Seeing him stay out against Albany kind of made me feel like, man, maybe he should have been out for Miami, and maybe he should have taken a whole month off if that's what he needed. I saw him getting off he made the trip. I saw him getting off the plane down in Atlanta. I'd love to see him play. I mean, if he's ready to go. If he's not ready to go, we'll do it. And Kihei and Isaac will be the guys, but like I mentioned earlier in the second segment, we don't have a ton of ball handlers. If opposing teams get up in our shorts, besides Kihei, there's really no one who can handle the pressure and run the offense. Isaac this is only his 12th game, or 10th, 11th, 12th game. The next best guy who can handle the offense is Chase Coleman, and I don't think that Tony's going to go that route. So, we need we're kind of in a rough spot there because opposing teams know, and Isaac's still a little bit green behind the ears in terms of running the offense. So expect if Reese doesn't play, expect a 36, 38-minute Kihei Clark game.
Yeah, which he's accustomed to that. He's been one of the top 3 in minutes played since he's been a Cavalier. Since after his freshman year, he's been one of the top players in minutes played. So, he's just tough as nails, man.
He knows the pulse of this team and the crowd. Like, the crowd was so dead against Albany, right? The crowd was so dead because they expected them to win by 20. And we were up by 2. and then he started going for those steals. It got the crowd right into the game. It was incredible. Yep. And he did the same thing against Houston when we needed a big bucket. He it got the lead cut to 6, I think, late in the Houston game, and we didn't end up winning, but it was one of those things where he knew right at the exact moment what we needed, and he took a gamble, and it paid off. And man, it's like he's got his finger on the pulse better than anyone I've seen. It's really, really incredible. He is. He's got orange and blue running through his
soul.
Yeah,
He's the heart.
it's running through his blood, man.
Of the team. That's right. And he did the same. He had some other plays in the Miami game, which were very similar.
Yeah.
You know, where he turned that game around and they got close, you know, when they were pressing them, which I don't think that's a bad idea for Miami, for UVA to press like they did against Miami. But that's another conversation for another show.
Mhm.
But it showed what they can do if they really wanted to pressure you, you know, up the court. But so let's get into our predictions of this team for this new year coming up. I mean, conference play kicks off tomorrow. You know, teams 9-2. I'm looking for a good slate of wins for this team. I'm thinking maybe they lose 1 or 2 conference games going into the March Madness. Going into the ACC tournament. You know, I'm thinking they're going to be one of the last 2 teams in the ACC tournament. I do think the ACC is down. And by the way, you know, some people may agree, some people may not agree with me, but I think the ACC is down. Duke hasn't been as dominant. Neither has North Carolina.
They just dropped one to Pittsburgh, I think, today, or someone.
Mm-hmm. So that leaves room for teams to come back and some unsung teams that you did not know were going to be good this year. So we'll all keep an eye on it. So what's your prediction, Casey, for March Madness for this team?
So I think we'll probably lose. I don't think we're going to mow through ACC play like, you know, the Kyle Guy, Ty Jerome teams did. I see us losing 3-4 games. Maybe we'll, you know, drop one to Duke, drop one to Carolina, lose a tough road game here or there. You know, you never know. ACC's when it gets to conference play, you know, sometimes all bets are off. So, but that's okay. You know, we'll end the season with 5 or 6 losses, get a nice 3-4 seed in the tournament. And I don't know. I think we're a Sweet 16 team. That's where I just the feel of it. I think we feel like a Sweet 16 team, and of course that's need Reese healthy, right? Need the shots to start falling, which they will. But yeah, Sweet 16 I think is our baseline, and then a few bounces here or there. I'm not planning a Final Four a trip, but listen, I'm at the drop of a hat, I'm there.
This is what I feel. This is my prediction. I think that they only lose 2 more games before the NCAA tournament. I think they lose 2 in-conference games, Duke and Florida State, North Carolina, Florida State, something like that. But I think they get to the Elite 8. I think
all right, great.
The team plays to their ability. I think Tony Bennett, the master of adjustments, is going to make some more adjustments like he did based off of injury, but also strategically. You saw him get Isaac McNeely in the game, wanting him to get, you know, his feet wet and handling the ball. Also, you see him also taking minutes from Armand Franklin. I don't know if you noticed that on the back end. He's been taking minutes from Armand Franklin because his shot is well, just from a position standpoint, he's taking guard minutes from Armand Franklin just because his shot is steadier. You know, and Armand Franklin has had like a terrible stretch up until this last game of really bad shooting. And if this team can get decent open shots made, you're looking at a completely different team. That's why Isaac is getting an opportunity to play at guard. So I'm looking at an Elite 8, and I'm looking for just 2 more losses, you know, going into this year.
You know what I love about Isaac's game? His trigger is so quick.
Yeah, it's quick.
You know, it's like he can get it off with just an inch of space. he can get it. He can get it off, and it's awesome. He doesn't need a big wind up to shoot it. He can just get it and launch. And yeah,
I like
he's
I
gonna
like the
be.
fact that he attacks the basket as well.
Yeah, yep. He's aggressive. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what Tony said. That's what he wants. He wants him to be aggressive. He wants him to shoot more than he is. That's what he said in the post game. He was like, I'm telling him like, shoot.
Shoot.
Yeah, get it going. Shooters keep shooting.
I mean, I look at him and I see, man, I can see him to me, even though his shot hasn't fallen like you're thinking it should, to me, he's a dead eye shooter.
Yeah.
I just think that he's gonna have games where he's gonna hit 3-4 threes in a row, and we're gonna be losing our minds. He's gonna have just lights out 3-point shooting. I can just see it, like you said, in the way that he shoots, his trigger, how quick it is, and
Yeah.
then if you've seen any of him play when he was in high school, he has that ability to put up a lot of points as well. But yeah. This has been a great show, man. Anything you'd like to say, Casey, before we get out of here?
No, but the girls have only lost one game. They just won a big ACC game at JPJ. Get out there, see the girls, support the guys. You can't ask for more right now. We're basically right in the mix for both teams, right in the mix of the conversation. So get out there, support them. Have a great New Year, and go Hoos.
Absolutely. Ladies are 12-1. Make sure you, like you said, get out there and check those ladies out, man. They're putting on a show. By record, they actually have the best record in the ACC right now, with only one loss. But yeah, everybody. But thank you for making Locked On Virginia your first listen today. Make sure you check out Locked On Sports Today. The biggest stories around the world today in 20 minutes or less, plus instant reactions, game recaps, and Locked On's take of the day. Locked On Sports Today, available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you, guys. And this is my guy, Casey Pazzalia, signing off. We'll see you guys tomorrow to do the football year in review. Thank you, guys. We will see you. Have a great evening.